Thanks for having me, Amy.
Oh, it is. We're so thrilled to have you here. Thank you all so much. Good afternoon to everyone here. Welcome to our Vermont Consumer Protection Panel. My name is Amy Schram, Community Relations Manager for Better Business Bureau, serving Eastern Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, and Vermont. And I'm thrilled to be hosting this virtual event today with our partners, Lisa Jensen, Assistant Director of the Vermont Attorney General's Consumer Assistance Program, and Elliott Greenblott, Fraud Watch Network Coordinator for AARP Vermont. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for the invite.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Today we are going to be covering all things scam, fraud, and identity theft related. Our panel of experts will discuss some of the major red flags we should all be aware of, tactics fraudsters use to obtain our personal information, and the ways that we can best protect ourselves from falling victim. I would first like to offer an introduction, a small introduction, to our BBB office and let you all know about some of the facets that we cover and the ways in which we help combat many of the issues that we're going to be delving into today. I will then pass it over one by one to each of our partners to offer introductions to their organizations and agencies before we dive right on into today's panel discussion. BBB is a nonprofit public service organization with a mission to be a leader in advancing marketplace trust. We work in the B2B and B2C sector, offering information on over 6 million businesses, thousands of charity organizations, and business and consumer tips, including monthly newsletters, educational webinars, countless free programs, resources, and services, and scam alerts. We encourage people to utilize our free website, bbb.org, to check out businesses before choosing who to work with or buy from, as well as researching charities via our BBB Wise Giving Alliance at give.org before making charitable donations. As we get into the topic at hand today, we will certainly cover why it's so important to do our research in advance and how that can help prepare us for the tactics that fraudsters use, including the most notable imposter tactic, where legitimate businesses, charity organizations, government agencies, and nonprofits are being impersonated every day. I want to encourage people to take advantage of the free programs that our office offers, including virtual webinars, both hosted and delivered by our BBB. As Community Relations Manager pre-pandemic, I was traveling throughout our service area delivering close to 200 free programs each year and have pivoted to online platforms this past year. We now deliver our programs virtually like this and speak on a number of topics. Perhaps most relevant to today is our scam, fraud, identity theft, and cybersecurity seminars. Please do not hesitate to reach out and request a free program for your business, community group, council on aging, senior center, or school. And lastly, before I introduce our first partner for today's event, I do want to mention something that I believe will be brought up a number of times in the coming hour, and that is our BBB Scam Tracker. This tool serves as a place for us to go and report the scams that we have been experiencing. The phone calls, the text messages, the emails, the letters. You do not have to have fallen victim to the scam listed, the scam itself in order to report it. In fact, we're hoping that you don't fall victim and have utilized our scam tracker to help you do so. But any information you can share and report is incredibly helpful. As each scam is reported, it automatically generates within our scam tracker and updates the database so that the page can also serve as a tool for people to visit and just stay up to date on what other people have experienced and reported. So it serves a dual purpose, both as somewhere for us to go and report what we have experienced, and also as somewhere for us to go and see what others have been experiencing and reporting. In the year 2020, our BBB Scam Tracker took in over 46,000 scam reports. And I will say that while that is a big number, it is almost nothing compared to how many scams are attempted each and every day. And so for a number of reasons, people have been hesitant to report what they've experienced, but we want to change that. The more people report, the more likely something can be done about the issues affecting all of us. Each scam that is reported via our scam tracker is shared with the Federal Trade Commission, and the Federal Trade Commission is the agency that then works with other agencies and authorities to help combat the issues we are all facing. In particular, over the course of the last few years, the Federal Trade Commission has worked very closely with the Federal Communications Commission in helping to combat combat the robocall issue, which I know that we're going to be getting into in just a bit. But for now, I want to encourage you again to type any questions you may have throughout the hour into the chat box. We will be answering these in the final segment of today's workshop, but also throughout as the questions pop in. And for now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Lisa Jensen, Assistant Director of Vermont Attorney General's Consumer Assistance Program. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Amy. Hello, everyone. As Amy mentioned, I work with the Consumer Assistance Program, which is a really unique program, which is a partnership between the Vermont Attorney General's Office and the University of Vermont within the Community Development and Applied Economics Department. And our office, the Consumer Assistance Program, we offer a few services to Vermonters. One, consumers can contact us if they have any unresolved consumer complaint that they may need assistance with. We offer a letter mediation service. Also, we have many Vermonters call our 800 toll-free line who have a question that may not be something we can handle, but we know where to send them to and where to connect them to. And thirdly, the topic of today, we have Vermont folks contact us with questions, reporting scams, unfortunately maybe being a victim of a scam. So consumers reach us with a variety of questions, and it's unique, the partnership between UVM and the Attorney General's Office, in that we have staff, Attorney General staff and UVM staff, and also we have students that serve in our program and build their professional development skills as well. So I wanted to share, as part of the introduction, a recent settlement that the Attorney General's Office announced April 28th. As Amy mentioned, many of these scams start with a robocall. And so thousands and thousands of robocalls come to Vermont each day. And with the partnership with the Social Security Administration and the Inspector General Office, our office identified a interconnect company based in Florida, a small company, that was routing these scam robocalls into Vermont. And so our office settled on April 28th with this company. It is a drop in the bucket of really getting, what's the word I'm looking for? Really stopping these scam robocalls. And so the settlement for this company, they need to verify any calls with the company they're working with overseas. There's a penalty as well that they're paid. And more importantly, through the settlement, the Attorney General's Office announced a robocall task force, which within our office is going to steadily monitor and hopefully keep making progress in stopping these interconnect companies from allowing these robocalls into our state, which then result in scam calls, which then result in people losing money, potentially. And I'd like to share too, we have a new online scam reporting form, which anyone is welcome to, very similar to Amy, what you were describing with the Better Business Bureau. Go to the Attorney General's website, ago.vermont.gov, report a scam. And as Amy said, as we know what scams are out there, we're better able to educate Vermonters to not fall victim. And we really want to encourage people to call our office if they have any questions. And most importantly, verify any call that comes in with a friend, a family, or call our office. We're happy to help.
That's so fantastic. And it's a great tool for people, because we were talking about this before, people started to enter today, and it's just that we can't help unless we know what to help, right? We need people to report what they're experiencing, and unfortunately it it takes one person to fall victim to a scam, but it also takes that person then reporting it, and it's important that people do that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And if you want to type that into the chat box as I introduce Elliott, the website in particular, I think that'd be fantastic. And with that, I'll introduce yet again Elliott Greenblott. Thrilled to have you, Fraud Watch Network Coordinator for AARP Vermont.
Thank you. AARP is a great organization, and just a little background on who we are and what we do. There are about 120,000 members of AARP in Vermont, and they're serviced by 5 staff members, and I'm not really sure how many volunteers, but there are a lot of us in the various programs that AARP Vermont sponsors. Primary mission is pretty simple. It revolves around advocacy, community service, and education. The AARP mission is to empower people in terms of how they choose what they do as far as living as they age. Policy work is focused on positive social change, and there are a number of different divisions. Consumer protection, and that's one thing that I'm involved with as AARP Vermont Fraud Watch, but there are also legal services, elder abuse concerns, long-term care. So a number of things under consumer protection. State House advocacy. AARP Vermont watches the State House, reports on what's happening in terms of key issues for Vermonters, and leads the charge on issues such as transportation and protecting assistance programs. Financial security is a third area, and retirement planning, workplace issues, the workforce, tax aid, which is a free service that allows folks to come to an AARP volunteer for assistance in filing income tax. And then livable communities. What's happening in the state of Vermont that's making communities a better and more vibrant place to live? And of course, Social Security and Medicare protection have been key to what AARP has been all about for the past 60 years.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction. And Elliott's actually going to kick us off by covering some of the major issues we face when we're connected to the internet, which for most of us is, 22 out of 24 hours a day, it feels like. Thank you, Elliott.
You're welcome. Let me just pull into my slide presentation. So what we found that has happened in the past year is because so many of us tend to be homebound or have been homebound more than in the past, it's really been a setup. It's created a perfect storm for con artists and criminals to find ways to either steal our information or, if nothing else, steal our money. There are a number of urban myths associated with fraud, and I think we need to start off with kind of an understanding of what some of these things are. One of them is that a frequent theme that I'm dealing with quite a bit is a number of people who consider that their education is going to protect them. One thing that we've discovered in the past several years is that education is not necessarily protection against fraud. And in fact, education may be more of a setup because many people are who are better educated earn more money, and as a result, they become more of a target. Scammers target the elderly and most vulnerable. That's an urban myth. In fact, the majority of people who fall victim to scams are in the range of 25 to 45 years old. And that's something that shocks a lot of people. Yes, seniors are targeted, as everybody is, and seniors tend to lose more money, but the age bracket of 25 to 45 is more frequently hit. The myth that it's not worth reporting a scam. Amy mentioned this a few minutes ago, and Lisa did as well. If we don't report the scams, then the knowledge is not going to come forward. and as a result, there's very little we can do to combat them. So reporting a scam is critical. And another urban myth, admitting that I fell for a scam will make me appear to be stupid. People feel that, their intelligence will be questioned, and the reality is the best way to save a friend, save a family member, is to admit the fact that you may be a victim of a scam. So why computer fraud? What is it about computers that drag people in? Well, first of all, computers are commodity items, they're not luxuries. 40 years ago, when I first became involved with computers, they filled rooms. Now I can tote my computer anywhere I want, and it has more power to it than what launched the Apollo missions to the moon. Computers are easy and inexpensive to acquire. Either hand-me-down computers or $100 computers. Chromebooks are very inexpensive. And so that makes people more vulnerable because the ability to get this kind of technology is readily available. Most computer users are somewhat naive. Most people think they know how to use a computer. The reality is what they know is how to use a particular application. And so you may know how to do emails, you may know how to shop, how to check news items and the weather, but in reality, you're not a computer user, you're an application user. And the information that's readily necessary to defraud you and me and everybody else out there is out there. It's readily available. So I'm going to share with you a very short video. And if you don't need to listen to the words as much as the captioning, I think this will give you a sense of what computer fraud is and how it happens.
Taxi. Dat is privé. Ik zie een school tegen auto's. Ja. Insecten. Wat lief? Ik zie 2 insecten op uw rug. Kan dat? Ja, vlinders. Slovenie? Slovenie? Ja. Een moto. Oranje. Plaats erop. Zenit. Oui, oui, bien. Je hebt een vriendin. Julie de... Ja. Een boeiend liefdesleven. 3, 4. Zo, de vierde, daar zwijg ik meestal over, dus dat weten niet veel mensen. Wat is mijn spierskleur? Maison rouge, balcon, blanc. Ja. Ik zie geld, ik zie transacties, maar kent je rekeningnummer van buiten? Ik denk dat ik het wel weet. Er staat wel negatief op uw bankrekening. Ja? 9, 7. Last month, you spent €200 on alcohol. Vorige maand €300 aan kleding gespendeerd. 8, 5 voor een huis dat van eigenaar gaat veranderen. €295.000. Ja, eigenlijk. 41. Ja. Juist? Ja, dat is het. Oh man. Ah, dat vind je eng.
So what is out there? What's the information that's readily available about you? Well, here's just a little of it. virtually all your personal information is available. And with select pieces of this information, I can go out and, for example, if you own a home or a condo, I could very easily find what the value of your home is, because most towns publish their grand list and it happens to be online. So the information is out there. And what it really means is we can't prevent identity theft. When I started working in this field of fraud awareness about 6 years ago, I thought I could be on a crusade to protect people from identity theft. And what I've discovered as I get more involved in this is, no, we cannot protect you from identity theft, but we can protect you from making mistakes, and we can protect your information from being used by criminals. So how is fraud committed on a computer? Well, generally there are 4 ways here, or 3 ways. Email messages, imposter websites, where somebody creates a website, which is relatively easy to do, that looks like an official website, lures you in, and then you provide information on it. Pop-up windows. All of a sudden, something pops up on your computer, or you get an email with a link, and it says, click here, and our natural curiosity ends up having us click. Trojan horses, software that's embedded on your computer and then awakened later on. Malware, and I'm sure everybody has become aware of ransomware after the past couple of weeks. And then viruses, just malicious actions or software that's there to try and create problems for you. So why are scammers successful? Well, one of the reasons why is we're talking about professionals. These are not fly-by-night people. They are not people sitting off to the side and saying, I think I'll do some scamming today. They are no different than an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer. They're well educated in what they do. And that means they are professionals in the area of psychology. They are students of psychology. They study what makes us tick. And as a result, they know what buttons to press. Scammers have time on their side. Most of the very successful scams, the ones that involve creating relationships or romances, they are not something that happens overnight. It doesn't happen in the immediacy of a phone call. It happens over a period of months while the criminal is endearing himself to the victim. Victims have an issue too. Victims are emotion driven. And what we've seen in researching a lot of the scams that have been successful is people end up becoming very emotional. They make mistakes, and as a result, they end up becoming losers. Victims are readily accessible, at least in the past year. Well, most people have been sitting around home wondering what to do, and what to do means watching TV maybe, turning on the computer, checking things out online. You're accessible if you're home, and it's also for telephone calls. And victims want immediate results, where the criminal's willing to stand back. You as a victim don't want to wait. If there's a chance for you to get that miracle cure for COVID, you want it, and you don't want to wait 6 months. You don't want to wait 2 weeks. You want it now. And that's what makes us vulnerable. Watch out for, what I call clickbait hoaxes. An email that says you won, congratulations, reward, exclusive, confidential, thank you. You can throw other words in there, but basically these are attention getting. And if you think you won, and an example, you won a $50 gift card at Walmart. Well, that looks pretty good. I could use $50. So these attention getting words are clickbait, meaning you end up clicking on that link to see what it's all about. Emotional pleas. If somebody can phrase a particular issue as an emotional plea, somebody who you know that's maybe ill from COVID, somebody who's on hard times. Emotional pleas are very effective. If you've watched TV at all, you've probably seen the ads for ASPCA and the poor animals that are sitting in cages. That's an emotional plea, and there's a purpose to it. And criminals know that triggers our response. And then curious or humorous captioning. If you see something that leads you in, you're likely to click. And as a result, you're providing information to the criminal. The psychology is pretty simple. It's called social engineering. We're going to manipulate you so that you're going to do what we, the criminals, want you to do. How do we do it? Create fear and anxiety. To be honest with you, I have not seen a topic any more fearful or creating more anxiety than COVID. Social consensus. If we feel everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, we don't want to be left behind. Authority or credibility. If I want to pitch a story to you about a medical cure, all I need to do is create an advertisement with somebody wearing a lab coat and a stethoscope around their neck. That's enough credibility and authority for most people to respond to. Scarcity. We saw that with toilet paper a year ago, but anytime you create scarcity, there's that motivation to act and act before I'm left out. And phantom riches. How much money can I dangle in front of you? What kind of prize can I dangle in front of you in order to get you to respond? When all of this is put together, what the criminals refer to it as is the ether. It puts you under their spell. In the same way that going into a hospital and being put under an anesthetic would put you under the doctor's care. So what do you do? Or what shouldn't you do? Well, first of all, it's important to keep in mind, everything you do online on a computer is being watched or recorded by somebody or something. If you don't believe that, do a Google search. Go online, Google in anything. I don't care what it is. Toaster, iRobot, any kind of automobile. Go away from your computer, have a cup of coffee, come back 5 minutes later, and then see how many pop-up ads appear for that item that you just searched for. That's the proof that something is watching what you do. And it's probably a something. It's another computer. If something is offered to you online absolutely free, you aren't the consumer. You're the product. You're being sold. Businesses do not make money giving away things. For example, there's been a rash of text messages and emails about free Netflix for a year. A lot of people have been getting these. That may be true. There may be some people who are getting free Netflix for a year, but the reality is Netflix is not going to make money giving away their product. They only make money when they sell it. So falling for that, you become not the consumer, you become the product. Well, there's one way to deal with computer problems. You take them to grandpa, and grandpa will fix your problem. Guaranteed. So what don't you do? One, if you get an email that looks fraudulent and you don't know who it's from, don't open it. If there's an attachment to an email, a hot link, and it's kind of suspicious, don't click on the link. That's the sure way of giving somebody information about you. Don't ignore personal threats. If somebody threatens you online, you need to report that to law enforcement. And don't respond to alerts, something that pops up on your computer, by using the contacts that are provided in the alert. Go for, if it says there's a problem with your American Express card or your MasterCard, check your MasterCard for the number that's on the back and call them. Don't click unsubscribe. All that does is it confirms your existence. If it's a suspicious email, if it's from somebody you don't know, don't click unsubscribe. If it's from a legitimate business that you've done business with, sure, unsubscribe if you no longer want their emails. Don't tell all in social media. This is where we provide the criminals with all kinds of information about ourselves and our family and where we're going. Now, something as innocent as we're going to California for 2 weeks and we're going to have a great time translates to the house is empty. Come rob us. Don't post full frontal photos on social media sites. This is what IDs are made of. And if somebody wants to create a fake ID, they can do it from a full frontal photo that's posted on social media. And don't conduct personal financial business on a public Wi-Fi system or on a public computer. And by the way, when you go to a hotel and you use their free Wi-Fi, and there are 200 rooms in that hotel, that's 200 people using the same Wi-Fi connection. It's not private. Oops.
Took out all these credit cards in my name and charged thousands of dollars worth of stuff. It was awesome. It was totally awesome. I set up this imposter Wi-Fi
Oops.
network. People here to connect to it. Boom. I go shopping. Learn how to watch your Wi-Fi at the AARP Fraud Watch Network. I just wish I knew how it happened.
Some things to do. Register for fraud alerts. Vermont Attorney General, through the Consumer Assistance Program, issues fraud alerts. Better Business Bureau, AARP, you can register for alerts with AARP. And the Federal Trade Commission is another place that you can get free fraud alerts. If you're inundated, great, because you're going to see exactly how bad the problem is. Install up-to-date virus and malware software, and be sure the operating system on your computer is up to date. A lot of people don't want to pay the money to upgrade. And as a result, if it's virus protection or malware protection, yeah, it still works, but it works on last year's malware, not on the current things. Back up your computer, back it up again, and back it up a third time. I have a portable backup drive, this little thing here. I think it was about $50. I plug it into my computer, I back up the computer, and I unplug it. I also have other places where I do backups. But that way, if something happens to my computer, I've got an independent source of all the information. Where possible, use multi-factor authentication. And this is where you try to get on a website, and the website says, we're sending you a text code on your cell phone with a, let's say, 6-digit code. This means that in order to get on a website, not only can you use a password and an ID, but you have to have another device that's registered to you. Makes it very safe. Recognize HTTPS, or the padlock. This means that the website that you're going into is protected and encrypted. Avoid using alternate media logins. Don't log into a website that's important to you using your Facebook or PayPal or your Twitter account. Use the login that goes to that particular website. Passwords. Robust, unique passphrases, using a mix of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, as many different things as you can put into it. And by the way, The complexity of a password is not the major issue. The major issue for making a password safe is how long the password is. If you notice, most websites call for a password that's about 8 characters long. The best safety password that the average person could have would be between 13 and 15 characters long. And if that really creates problems for you, consider password managers. There's several commercial password managers available for sale. You can check those out online if you go to cnet.com, and they rate password managers. Utilize blacklist on your email. That means selecting the ability to place an email message from a particular source directly into your junk folder or into your trash folder. Disable sharing on technology. If you have a laptop and you're traveling, don't have sharing on, because that can open up your laptop and everything on it to someone else. Use password encryption on Wi-Fi if you have a Wi-Fi network at home. And then what I consider to be the best protection that you can have online is purchasing and installing something called a virtual personal network, a VPN. This is software that allows you to go in where there's public Wi-Fi and have everything that you're doing encrypted. And then finally, something that's very important, validate before you donate. Check out the Better Business website, give.com. Check out some of the other places like Charity Navigator before you donate money. And find out how much of the money that you're donating is going to the charity versus to a professional paid fundraiser. So we've gone through a lot of hints. One thing that I provide for people who attend my presentations is that if you want the information that I just shared with you, you can contact me at egreenblott@aarp.org. I'll be happy to share the slides with you. We offer, as the Vermont AARP Fraud Watch program, about 7 different presentations, and we do them as Zoom, and we also do them as live in-person programs. So that's just kind of a overwhelming rundown of computer fraud.
Thank you so much, Elliott. Feel free to keep this up for another moment or take it down. That was just so much content and so much good, incredible content that's really relevant, you know, across the board, and a lot of the issues that we see today in regards to scam and fraud concerns. And I just wanted to relate a few of the pieces that you mentioned to some of the phone issues in particular. That we and people are facing every day. In particular, you know, you were mentioning don't click unsubscribe on the emails, and that's really relevant for text messages as well. You know, sometimes we'll receive a text message that says something like, you know, reply stop if you'd like to stop receiving these, you know, correspondence through text message, or reply no. And that's really just a way for people to get you to, again, respond. Just like Elliott said with the emails, they just want to know that they're reaching out to an active working email, to an active working phone number. And so just be very, very cautious of that. And then also, I think one of the major things, and then I'm going to take some of these questions from the chat box, and perhaps Lisa, I'll have you hop on and answer some of these questions as I facilitate in just a moment. But I just wanted to mention in regards to the phone scams and the phone issues in particular, one of the major issues that we have across the board, whether it's over the phone or through email or through text message or whatever it might be, is that people are utilizing that imposter tactic. Elliott mentioned in particular that you might receive an email that looks like it's coming from a particular business or organization, or you might be on a website that looks legitimate as if it's as if it's a website for a legitimate organization or charity or business. And it's really, really tricky, and it's hard to decipher, if you're online, let alone if you're over the phone. There is no way for us to verify if the person on the other end of the phone is who they say they are, unless we have been the one to initiate the call. So we've made the call out. The phone calls that come in, they're incredibly precarious because fraudsters are utilizing what's known as the imposter scam, the imposter tactic, and they are impersonating any business, government agency, charity organization that we may be familiar with or affiliate ourselves with. For example, I'm sure most people are familiar with the IRS phone scam, the Social Security phone scam, the Medicare phone scam. But people are also calling and pretending to be a representative from your bank, your credit card provider. And what they're doing is they're utilizing a lot of the information that Elliott was touching upon in regards to that social engineering, that social manipulation. They're finding these small pieces of information online, seemingly small, because I think a lot of us that think, oh, a scammer wants our social security number, they want our credit card number, they want our bank account information, and of course they do. But they can cause a lot of damage even with what is seemingly to us those smaller pieces of information. Just our first and last name, our address, our phone number, our email address, the name of our bank. They don't necessarily have to have our personal bank account information in order to do damage with even just knowing the name of the bank that we use. Because when they call us and they say that they're a representative from that particular bank, we're going to be much more likely to divulge even more personal information because we think we're speaking to a real representative from our real bank because they've addressed us by name and they know the name of the bank that we use. And that goes across the board, and especially in regards to charity organizations. All year we receive solicited calls from people soliciting for donations for charities. And then of course there are times where they tend to ramp up. And that can be during a time of mass devastation. Maybe there's a flood, a hurricane, or tornado, COVID times, whatever it might be. The scammers capitalize on that. And I think, that ties into one of the very first things that Elliott mentioned. And that's, we don't like to give these scammers too much credit, but they are smart and they're professionals. And so, it pains us to call them that, but it's the truth. They're very seasoned, they're very smart, it's their full-time job, and they're utilizing these tactics that are incredibly clever. They're not contacting us so much anymore and say, although they can, not as often, saying things like, you won a free cruise, or you won a free iPad, or, you won the Nigerian lottery, or whatever it might be. Those calls can come in, but our red flags go waving, right? Big red flags when we say, oh, this seems a little off, or how can I win the Irish lottery if I'm not in Ireland or an Irish citizen? And
Amy,
yeah.
just to point something out, a lot of the email scams of that nature are not looking at millions of dollars.
Right.
It's a $50 gift card. It's a $100 gift card. Mm-hmm. And that's what draws you in because it's a realistic amount of money. Somebody tells me I've won $12.5 million. Right. Can I get a $50 gift card to Walmart? Yes. So that becomes a tangible and real thing. And that drops my guard against the scam.
Exactly. It becomes, it's not outlandish. It's not outlandish to think of $25 here, $50 there, as much as it is to get, a request for $12,000 or $1,000. It's those smaller transactions that again, allow an opportunity for our guard to go down. And I think it's something absolutely to be aware of and to know that it really isn't the big, big, big things, or really, it can be, but it's not always the big, big, big things things that we have to watch out for, is those smaller nuances. And honestly, even just knowing the general tactics that they use, impersonating government agencies or impersonating your bank and looking for those smaller pieces of information, we're just generally going to be a bit more cautious and give ourselves cause for pause before we input our information places or divulge pieces of personal information. And with that, as we're rounding out the hour, I thought this would be a great opportunity. Lisa, I hope you don't mind. Maybe I'll pass some questions on to you. One of the first ones we received actually was something relevant to what you were speaking on earlier in regards to the robocalls. And the question was, what is the best way to stop getting robocalls? A popular question, I'd say. Oh, you know what? You might be on mute still.
Here I am.
Perfect.
Yes, it's a very, very frequent question that we hear as well. And it really depends upon what type of phone you have. And we have specific information on our website. So depending if you have a cell phone, you can block calls, you can do a third-party app. But if you have in rural parts of states where there isn't strong cell service and you have a POTS line, it's called POTS, that's specific in that you have to actually invest a little money to put an add-on to your phone. So it really depends upon what kind of phone you have. There are resources, so please call our office, go to our website, and we're happy to help point you in the right direction.
I think it's such a great point that you brought up, is that every phone provider is different. And, you know, it may be an opportunity for us at this point to contact our phone providers directly as well and say, what do you have in play to best protect me from falling victim to these robocalls and having to answer these scammers and things like that. And I think we'd be surprised how much the phone providers themselves are starting to really work with, you know, organizations and businesses to help combat those issues. And because every phone provider is different, it's important. And your website is a great tool for people to start with too, to see what else is out there. And unfortunately, you know, we can probably say that the calls will never stop necessarily. You know, we won't be able to stop every call from coming in, but for those of us that are completely inundated, if we can cut it down, you know, here and there and utilize these free tools. And again, keep in mind that, you know, there is a lot of stuff out there that's free, and then maybe there are things that are worth an investment for you. It's definitely worth looking into. And one of, I actually thought this was a really interesting question and relevant, especially now as it feels like things are turning around in regards to vaccinations and this current pandemic. And the question is, do people need to continue being vigilant for COVID-19 scams, or do we think that they'll die out as states open back up? That's a great question. Any insight or thought on that?
It's hard to predict. Oh, go Elliott. I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I've been cataloging COVID scams, and I, as of 2 days ago, had 223 of them. And that included a couple new ones. There was a spurt of fake pills available on the market. They're being pitched to people who are vaccine hesitant. And as a result, you know, you can get a pill that will do the same thing as the vaccine. Now, Pfizer is coming around with a pill by the end of the year, but it's not available now. And people who are desperate are willing to take a chance. Oh yeah, I'll take that pill, and they're ordering it. And the reality is, if there was a pill on the market today that was available, it wouldn't be coming to you as an advertisement via email at 2 in the morning. It would be on every media site in the country. It would be in all the newspapers, but it's not there. So, you know, you have to start believing what's out there. And, you know, the fact that somebody is trying to catch you and saying, well, you know, this is a secret, and, you know, the pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know. That's the kind of thing, you know, the conspiracy theories that can also play into these scams.
Well, it plays on our hopes, right? And I think the, the concept of, do we need to continue to be vigilant? I just think it cannot hurt to always be vigilant, right, Lisa?
Yes, I was just going to say, in every situation that it's something new that you've never heard of, or you're not quite sure if that email or that phone call is accurate, is verify. If you remember one thing, verify. Pause, as Elliott said, call one of our organizations, talk to a family member, talk to a friend, and always verify, because it is confusing. There's a lot of information, and the criminals are very deceptive. And so we do want people to take that time to verify.
Have you heard specifically too about the importance of not sharing the vaccination card online as well, and how detrimental that could be, for those people that are taking selfies with their vaccine cards because they're so excited to finally be there? Should they be cautious of doing that?
I think any personal information should not be shared on social media.
Any ID card, things like that. I play around with technology a lot, and taking my COVID card, putting it on a scanner, and then scanning it, photoshopping out my name and putting in somebody else's name, and now somebody else has a COVID vaccine card. Mm-hmm. The cards are ridiculously easy to forge, mm-hmm. and that's the sad part.
And I think that's it too. It's remembering, for those of us that are vigilant, it's sad that these are things that happen, and that they happen every day, and that they can play on situations like the current pandemic, or that, the fraudsters that contact people pretending to be from charity organizations, soliciting for donations. There are real issues at hand, and they're just capitalizing on the fact that, we're hopeful for a vaccine, or we're hopeful for things to get better, or we want to help because we want to make donations and things like that. And so they play on the fact that we care,
And one of the things I've seen is a number of social media account hacks. And this has involved individuals, but it's also involved groups like synagogues, churches, where the membership list gets compromised. And then members of that organization start to get emails from, let's say, Pastor John, who's trying to raise some money for a needy family. Well, it's not from Pastor John. Mm-hmm. The other one is individuals who have had their data breach taking place, and then somebody gets their information and they send emails out to the people on the contact list. And it's very simple at the start. And it's, gee, Elliott, do you have an Amazon account? And I respond and say, yes. Why? And they say, well, I have a problem getting into my account, and I want to get a gift from my niece in California. Would you be willing to buy an e-card and send it to her? Mm-hmm. There's
when
no niece in California.
Friend, we don't hesitate, right? As much. Yeah. When it looks like
so, you get something like that. If it's from a friend of yours, call them, ask them, mm-hmm. Did you send out that email? Mm-hmm. And we don't ask questions, and as a result, we get burned constantly because the obvious question isn't asked.
That's such a great point. It's about being in control. And I think for a lot of people, Elliott, you and I were talking about this before everyone hopped on, it's overwhelming. And even, hearing about all of these, even within an hour time frame, it scares people because there's so much to be aware of and cautious of and conscious of. And I think it's really important to remember that we are in more control than we realize, because we can take that step, like Lisa said. We can take that step and we don't have to respond to that email right away. We don't have to even answer the phone when it rings. We can let the answering machine pick it up. And then if someone leaves a message, we can verify that phone number with one of our agencies, one of our organizations. If we are the one that is taking the initiative, then we will be far better off. And honestly, just attending a seminar like this, a workshop like this, and continuing to stay educated, visit each of our websites and stay up to date on what the latest scam tactics are, what the latest issues are. The more we continue to educate ourselves, the less likely it is that we'll fall victim, because we'll even just have simple, basic information about what it is that's going on out there. And far too often, the people that fall victims are the people that fall victim tend to be the people who don't think that it will happen to them. So I think that if we're all aware that it could happen to anyone and that everyone is targeted across all age demographics, that, it takes the pressure off a little bit, and we start to feel like we're in a little bit more control because we always have the time to take a step back.
And that goes back to what I said early on, which is, the people who are the deniers. Okay, I'm too smart to be taken in by a scammer.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? You're not. And
unfortunately, none of us are.
Because you're already dismissing the intelligence of the criminal. And once you do that, you're at the disadvantage. So, anything you do to kind of say, not going to happen to me, well, guess what? It does.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. The hour flew by like we thought it would. Are there any final thoughts, Elliott? And then I'll pass it on to Lisa.
Well, for me, you can go online to aarp.org/fraud. It's a lot longer, Fraud Watch Network. But if you just type in fraud, you'll get to the website. There's a lot of resources there, descriptions of different kinds of fraud, a map of the United States that will show you what's been reported recently, and the opportunity to register for fraud alerts. So I urge that. You can contact me if you have any questions that I haven't answered, and that's Greenblott@aarp.org.
Thank you so much. Lisa?
And I would build on what Elliott said, and please sign up for the alerts with our organizations. We do have a scam alert system as well. A lot of resources on our website. We're a phone call away. Please be in touch if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. We at the Better Business Bureau are so thankful for your participation in today. Thank you to those attendees that are here. We have been recording this. We're going to pop this onto our BBB YouTube and our Vimeo channel. So feel free to share it once it's up with people that maybe couldn't attend live today. And just stay vigilant, and do not hesitate at any point to reach out to any one of our organizations with questions that you may have. We are here to assist you and help you, and we appreciate you being here today. So thank you so much.